Coming up next is Dr. Kimberly Taylor. Here's your chance to talk about what matters to you. Although you will receive helpful advice from Dr. Taylor, remember, this is not to be construed as a form of psychotherapy, diagnosis, or treatment, and cannot replace a therapeutic relationship with a mental health professional. You can reach Dr. Taylor by calling 564-1290 or toll free at 866-564-1290. You can also listen live on the internet at drkimtaylorshow.com. So here now is Dr. Kimberly Taylor.
Today I want to talk about your self-esteem. Self-esteem is how you think and feel about yourself as a person in the world. And of all the judgments that we're going to be making in our life, there's going to be none more important than the judgments we make about ourselves. I think Gandhi said it best when he stated that people often become what they believe themselves to be. If I believe I cannot do something, it makes me incapable of doing it. But when I believe I can, then I acquire the ability to do it. Self-esteem, it's really the value that we place on what we believe to be true about ourselves. Now, it's not determined by the amount of your bank account or the make of your car, even the label on your clothes or the person that you date. Simply put, it's based on how you think and feel about yourself. People with high self-esteem, they just feel good in the world. They feel adequate and worthy, and they view themselves as equal to others. They can see their limitations, but they expect to be able to grow and to improve. They don't pretend that they have to be perfect. But those with low self-esteem, they feel inadequate, even unworthy, and most of the time unlovable. They also live in constant fear of what others may think of them. So, if your self-esteem depends on what others think about you, and you need their vote on whether you're good enough or worthy, then I gotta tell you, you're in for a whole lot of pain and suffering. But when you decide that you're the only person who gets to vote on whether you're good enough, then other people's opinion of you is just going to matter a whole lot less. Now, it's not to say that what other people think about us or say about us doesn't matter, but there's a huge difference between wanting other people to like you and needing other people to like you to make you feel good about yourself. You have to remember, no one person can increase the self-esteem of another. So don't mistake self-esteem for narcissism or the need to boast to everyone that you're the best. Self-esteem is an inner knowing and a peace that comes from within, and it's the gift that we can only give to ourselves. Now, it isn't to say that parents or teachers or partners or our friends can't nurture and support us. But self-esteem mainly relies on the internal dialogue of each person. So here's my question for you. What are you saying to yourself about yourself in your own head? This is important because this is going to determine how you feel about yourself. Self-esteem needs to be built and cultivated, and it's something we do throughout our life. You're going to need to search within yourself again and again to find your own sense of strength and acceptance about yourself. So today we're going to be talking about self-esteem in our youth and how we can provide opportunities and activities for young people so that they can develop a sense of accomplishment that will lead them to developing a strong self-esteem. It's true that self-esteem starts fairly early, and children who have a strong self-esteem are just able to navigate in their world and to feel good about what they do. Whereas low self-esteem can be a major factor that contributes to mental health problems that can include alcohol and drug abuse, depression and anxiety, and even a higher risk for suicide and violence. Today, my guest is Eduardo QA. He's the director of the Daniel Bryant Youth and Family Treatment Center here in Santa Barbara. He's going to share his own experience and his knowledge working with adolescents to help develop self-esteem. Building self-esteem is critically important to help kids move in the right direction so that they can grow up and live successful lives. So I'm Dr. Kim Taylor, your Thursday afternoon psychologist here, and this is also your time. It's your time to call in and to share. So if you have a question or comment, or you just want to join the conversation, I want you to pick up the phone and give me a call at 564-1290 or toll free at 866-564-1290. Stay with me. I'm taking a quick break, but I'll be right back with my guest. I'm Kimberly Taylor, and you're listening to KZSB AM 1290.
You are listening to Dr. Kimberly Taylor. You can reach her by calling 564-1290 or toll free at 866-564-1290.
I am here with Eduardo Quay from the Daniel Bryant Youth and Family Treatment Center, and we're going to be talking about self-esteem and youth and how we can help them to build a strong self-confidence about themselves so that they can go on and live a fulfilling life. So welcome to our program.
Dr. Taylor, thank you for having me here today.
Would you start out by first telling us just what is the Daniel Bryant Treatment Center?
The Daniel Bryant Youth and Family Treatment Center is a program of the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, and it's located on 1111 Garden Street. But what it represents is a safety net of services under one roof, and it's part of the continuum of care that we provide to what we call CADA kids for the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse. At the center, the Daniel Bryant Center, we have a number of different programs, starting with the Teen Court program, which really leads to our intervention side. And this is a piece where a minor may have first contact with law enforcement or have some type of school infraction at school, and they're given an opportunity to take accountability and responsibility for their actions, go in front of a jury of peers in which this peers determine constructive consequences for their behavior. And then by completing those conditions within a sentencing design, the offense that the minor came in goes away, and they start over with a clean slate. And what we do is we use that power of peer influence to get kids into our workshops that we provide at the Daniel Bryant Center that's part of Teen Court, treatment for alcohol and drugs when we know that there's substance use or abuse issues that are taking place. And we get the parents involved in this, where we have a parent program, because we feel that building the family unit is so important to building a healthy child in our community.
Okay, so your center is a place for kids to go to and parents to go to, and you provide a lot of different ways in which you're constantly thinking about building back their self-esteem if, for instance, they've broken the law, gotten into a teen court environment, and or to help parents really to encourage their kids and support them in building this self-esteem.
Absolutely. I think in many cases, and I'll use the example of a teen court case summary, when we not only want to know what brought the minor in, what offense was committed, we want to know a little bit about where the teenager's at that's coming in, or the adolescent that's coming in. And oftentimes, we see that teenagers do not have a dream of the future. They do not have the family connections that they might need. They are disconnected from school activities that might be taking place. And so in building a sentencing design, we really want to look at engaging them in those pro-social activities that might help them become better students, become more involved, and be happier with themselves.
Okay, so let's back up a bit here. Let's start with, how do they get here in the first place? What are the kinds of influences that really affect them that you're seeing at your center?
I have to say, growing up in Santa Barbara, it's probably like any community, I've been working with at-risk youth for over 30 years. And the deal is, in general, the children in our community are more often doing very well. But we have young people in our community that, because of media influence that they see, the image that they see, how to dress, what to drink, how to talk, who to be friends with, how to look. It takes them out of themselves or how they might feel comfortable with, and they start playing roles, which sometimes puts them in dangerous situations. We have technology, and I could go into this a little deeper later in our conversation, but technology plays a big role because technology puts information at their fingertips. Sometimes it's not the most reliable information, but it's what they want to hear to justify the behavior that they might want to become involved with, and that makes it risky. Technology also puts friends that maybe are not friends in contact with them, and puts self-disclosure issues within themselves that, once they put in the internet, they cannot take back, and it really impacts what's taking place with them. And so we'll talk about friends and family, how these roles play in self-esteem for a child, but the two that I brought up were technology and media really have a tremendous influence on youth today because it's just so much out there.
That makes a lot of sense to me because there is so much that they have to focus on and so much out there that it's really hard to get a sense of who they are separate from everybody else. And all of these influences are coming in. And you're saying right now that greatly impacts them.
Absolutely.
Sometimes in a very negative way. What do you think that the relationship is between teens and social media?
Well, oftentimes the teens in social media, they look at the fantasy of how they see the glorification of, let's say, and I don't want to just justify it, what might be out there, but they fail to see the downside of it. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes what happens is, even for our kids that take away from media, just social interaction. We have students that are doing really well in school. They pay attention to their parents, they follow the rules, they get good grades, but when they walk through that school, they are alienated from the rest of the students that are having a good time, that are drinking, that are smoking, that are partying, that are having a good time. They say, why can't I do that? And so oftentimes this creates a confusion to the child and saying, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do, but this doesn't feel good. What's going on? And they're questioning themselves. And this doubt sometimes gets them into trouble.
Okay, so they're trying, on one hand, to please their parents, but then it's a conflict between trying to please their friends and what will make them fit in. And they sometimes have a difficulty navigating their way.
Well, I think it's even deeper than that, because I think as sometimes for families, they set the values, they set the morals for their children. And then there might be a contrasting set of values and morals that they might be seeing from their peers that's taking place. And it's as much as it is that they want to make their parents happy, but they feel comfortable and safe with this set of morals and values. But they also want to conform and fit in with this other circle of peers. And sometimes it's destructive. And oftentimes when they start crossing that line and violating their own personal morals and values, that line gets confusing for them. And what are my values? What are my parents' values? And how do I really feel? Because I'm doing what my peers want me to do, but I'm not really feeling comfortable with that either. Mm-hmm. And so it really creates doubt again. And so it's discussion points that need to be brought up to really talk about, to really strengthen why your values are important.
So when they come into a treatment center like yours, what do you have for them? How do you hit those points?
I think it's important that, every teenager is an individual, and we see them for that. When they walk in our doors, we see that they might have particular different challenges that they're facing. It's just difficult enough to be an adolescent, navigating through the minefields of being that adolescent and trying to be an adolescent adult and not blowing themselves up and stepping the wrong way. When they come into the Daniel Bryan Center, we do ask them questions. We ask them what's going on at home, what's going on with their friends, what's going on with alcohol and drugs, what is the behaviors that they involve with that they feel, that they feel challenged with. And by getting a greater scope of what this individual looks like, we can tailor the type of services that we believe might help them get right back on track, or to really validate those strengths that they might have and really move them forward in that direction.
So what we know is that about 75% of girls who have low self-esteem, they report getting engaged with boys and engaging in behaviors that they're not really proud of and that they don't really like. So what kinds of messages or treatments or services or groups do you have for them to learn about themselves and how to work with that?
Yeah, I think it works on different levels. We have school-based counselors called youth service specialists that work individually with clients, and those clients that feel disenfranchised with school or disconnected, they get to go and meet with these counselors individually or be part of group sessions, which are called Reconnecting Youth, to really help them students re-engage back into school and feel like this is a solution, because education is a solution. Mm-hmm. And developing the mind as teenagers is going to be what's going to make them healthy and happy where they're at. I think there's programs like even younger in elementary mentoring programs, and really matching these young people with adults that can be that guiding light for them and be that advocate for them, not only for the school, but to help them with their parents and really dealing with the social aspects of growing up in a school setting so that they can be successful students.
So you are not just supporting the kids here. You are supporting the parents, and you're supporting the teachers to help educate the kids throughout their life, throughout their teen years.
I think in our model of our continuum of care, prevention, intervention, treatment, and aftercare, mm-hmm. we're looking at the whole continuum, and the family is inclusive of our education system and the support of the administrators and the teachers that are supporting our children in our community.
We are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. I'm Kimberly Taylor, and you're listening to KZSB AM 1290.
You are listening to Dr. Kimberly Taylor. You can reach her by calling 564-1290 or toll-free at 866-564-1290.
I'm here with Eduardo Quay, who is the director of the Daniel Bryant Youth and Family Treatment Center here in Santa Barbara, and we're talking about self-esteem. There are so many factors out there with the kids these days that they look at the Facebook and the Twitter accounts and the Instagram. Can you talk a little bit about cyberbullying and how that really affects kids?
Today, like we said, technology is so at our fingertips. And for teenagers, when you look at behavior by teenagers, and sometimes it's impulsive, sometimes there's a lack of empathy, or there's a lack of consciousness as to the consequence and what could happen with the behavior that they're involved in. When technology is used or abused in such a fashion, it has some dramatic effects on teenagers today. When teenagers are putting on text and bullying people on the internet, or bullying people using their cell phones, and they become anonymous in that, it's the drama effect that they themselves want to feel powerful and feel their need for self-esteem at the expense of somebody else. But because it goes out to and bleeds out to so many people, it has a tremendous impact on the victim that is taking place. And this has long-term consequences to the teenagers and many times young ladies that are affected by this. Mm-hmm. We also see that video imaging using the cell phone is so often prevalent, where we teenagers will catch other teenagers in compromising situations, or they do selfies of themselves in a compromising situation and put that out there without really thinking about it. Then all of a sudden, it's not like you can say, oops, let me erase it and take it back. Mm-hmm. It's there. And all of a sudden, they're horrified with what they're seeing. They're horrified with the reaction that is taking place with those images that are out there, and has a really dramatic effect on how they feel about themselves.
So while they may just be trying to share it with one friend or two friends, it gets out there and all of a sudden everybody has seen this.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what is it that you think that we can tell parents about what they could do to help kids deal with some of this media and how to handle it? Do parents need to have better controls? Do we need to teach kids and to let them know that if they put one thing out there that it may be seen by everybody else, and if they don't want everybody in the world to see it, they better not be posting it on their Instagrams and Facebooks?
As part of our continuum of care, we have the Fighting Back Parent Program. And the Fighting Back Parent Program follows 3 areas: show your child love, show your child support, show your child boundaries. And so in showing your child boundaries, be aware of who their friends are, be aware of how they're using technology, know what's taking place, be an engaged parent, know what's going on with school. And by doing that, you create a safety net for your child to put boundaries upon themselves, which as teenagers sometimes we do not have the impulse control to manage that. It's for us as adults, as parents, to step in to help them gauge that so that they can become strong and have a greater sense and a core to be able to make the decisions that won't lead them into harm.
Mm-hmm. So the more that parents can educate them and show different things that pop up in the news where they are showing some of the problems with this, and to have that be a moment that they can actually teach the kids, this is what could happen, and you have to be careful with this about how you use this particular tool.
As a father of a 11th grader, there's something that I always have to keep in mind, being a parent myself, is that my daughter is a great kid. There may be that time when they're going to make that mistake. I have to be receptive enough and strong enough to be able to hear that, to be able to help with that without losing my temper, without losing my emotional control, but being present for my child to deal with the challenges that might be there. And I think sometimes that's easier said than practiced, but these are the things that we really talk about in a parent program component, to really talk about these issues so that your child has the confidence to really discuss with you some of the things that they may be afraid to talk with anybody else, but they really need your guidance to make the decisions, the critical decisions that they may be facing at any given time of their life.
Mm-hmm. And I think that point is very important, because I think we need to be able to allow kids to make mistakes and to encourage them to keep moving forward and to challenge themselves, and to not to shame them or to tell them that they're bad because they did that. This is part of building their confidence in themselves too.
Right.
So it is hard as a parent to sometimes not, blow your top and get really emotionally charged there, but it is important that the kids know that the parents are a safe place to come to talk to, because there's a lot that they have to deal with right now, and they can't do it on their own for sure, and I'm sure they can't solve it all with their friends either. So let's talk about how friends actually do affect one another's self-esteem.
Yeah, and friends, technology, when you just look at the concept of Facebook, and Facebook, you say, you know what, I have 2,000 friends, and somebody might walk with you, you're such a loser, you only have 7 friends. I think even as adults, we lose sight of that concept of, well, who are these people? People sign up on your face page that you don't know who they are, but you just say, ping, okay, you're
Accept,
my friend.
yes.
You accept that. Teenagers, as they're navigating through adolescence, have the challenges in that when they're looking at, they need to be critical to determine who is an associate, who is a friend, who is a good friend, who is a best friend.
Yeah.
Who are these people in my life? Who are these people that are trying to influence the decisions that I'm making today? And are they speaking in my best interest, or are they manipulating me to get in trouble and to put myself in a bad situation? Oftentimes, for our teenagers, they look at friends and they don't have any shade of what that might be. An associate they may term as a friend, and that might not be a good friend of theirs.
Right.
And so I think that it's learning to help them become critical to look at who are these people that are shaping their lives and in their world.
That, I think, is a great point, and I love that because I teach that with clients in my own room, is that there are boundaries around each one of those. We can have our inner circle of friends, and we can expect things of those people. And then we can have our friends, but we don't expect the same thing of our friends as we expect of those in our inner circle or our best friends. And the same with moving outside that circle, is that then we have the other people. So I think it's very important to teach kids about friendship and what friendship is and what they can expect, rather than expecting that everybody is going to like them and everybody is going to take care of them. So I love that point about what you teach there. What about gender, and does that make a difference in whether somebody has low self-esteem or high self-esteem in these teenage years?
I think it's important for us to really take a look at what's taking place. What is the data telling us? Who are the clients that we are serving? We know that for teen court and the clients that we serve at the Daniel Bryant Youth and Family Center, 37% are young ladies. Mm-hmm. That's a high number to have law enforcement contact. And we're looking at how do we address that. And oftentimes we want to be able to create programming in treatment, in intervention workshops, let's say through teen court, and some of the services that we provide through mentoring or the YSS program, where they break out gender-specific type of programming so that young men and young women can really talk about what's taking place in their life without feeling they have to perform in front of one another. And it just opens up a rich dialogue which really helps them make better decisions and really see what's taking place for themselves. I think for young ladies, there's this self-image that they feel that they must go, and the challenges of how they feel that. But when they're in that young ladies leadership group that we provide as a workshop, as a group workshop, mm-hmm. they're able to discuss this issue. Well, this is what the magazine looks like, and this is what I look like. Do I meet that standard? Yes, you do. We're able to talk about those things. I think that's very important. As much as it is in treatment, where we have gender-specific services for trauma-related services, there's a special program called Seeking Safety. And what we're looking at is that we know that young ladies and young boys, they have trauma in their lives that takes place. It might look differently for each one of them. So we put them in those isolated groups so they can really talk without fear about what's taking place and really open up and really address some of those issues that are involved in the trauma that they have in their lives.
So if a parent of a child, let's say a young girl, is feeling like she really has low self-esteem, that she doesn't feel very good about herself, that she's constantly getting into trouble or, being with the wrong kids or getting involved in drugs, how would they get their child involved in a program like yours with women in leadership or the young women in leadership?
The beauty with all our services with the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, you don't need to be in trouble. You just need to want to come. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we have some of our teenagers are just being involved in pro-social activities. We have with our youth service specialists, there's Friday Night Live and Club Live, and these are two leadership programs that take place in middle schools and high schools. And what's really beautiful about that is that here's kids that normally would not engage with one another really become involved to really get involved in school activities and move forward with their lives. And so like that program, there's plenty of programs under the adolescent branch of the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse for Arcata kids to really provide that stream of services that starts from the prevention ed to the treatment side that really helps any kid to become involved with it, and to get into the program is simple. Just walk in the door.
Okay, or else they can call?
They can call our Daniel Bryan office at 730-7575 or our Council on Alcoholism and Administrative office at 963-1433.
Okay, and I also have a website here. It is cadasb.org. We are going to take a short break, and I'll be right back. I'm Kimberly Taylor, and you're listening to KZSB AM 1290.
You are listening to Dr. Kimberly Taylor. You can reach her by calling 564-1290 or toll free at 866-564-1290.
I am here with Eduardo Quay from the Daniel Bryant Youth and Family Treatment Center, and we've been talking about self-esteem and the lows and highs of that and what the impact is. And what we do know is that kids with low self-esteem can be really set up to have major problems in their life. And some of those include violence or getting involved with gangs or even drug use or even to act out in a sexual way. So what are you seeing about that within your center?
When we have teenagers that come to the center, about 72% of the teens that are coming in, let's say for teen court for any offense, 72% are indicating use or abuse of alcohol, and 74% are indicating abuse of drugs, marijuana being the substance of choice.
So this is ages 12 to 18.
12 to 18. It doesn't matter what they're referred for. We ask the same questions, and this is what we're learning. So we know that substance use is prevalent. It's out there. And this is something that teenagers really have to take a look at and address and say, where do I sit at with this and what decisions am I going to make? We find that the teenagers that are coming into the center and in general, we're serving with all our programs, is that when we ask them, well, why do you use? And sometimes, they says, sometimes it makes me feel good. It makes me feel better. And sometimes I just don't want to feel. And so I'm using it to mask my pain that I might have. I mask the stress that I might be feeling. And so this is why they are using. And so when we find that alcohol, marijuana, and other substances are medications for these teenagers to where they feel because of their lack of esteem, they're using it to feel better about themselves.
Okay.
So these are the things that we work with and want to work with to develop with the teenagers to build up that life where they understand where, I feel pretty strong being sober, and, I've developed those skill sets that I will need so that I can move on with my life being sober, and I find myself being happy. We want to find that balance for teenagers today.
Okay. And I really believe that when you give kids the ownership and have them be responsible for what they're doing in their life, then they can start to look at, is this something that I can be proud of? And when they start to be proud of what they're doing, whether it's to stay sober or whatever that they're trying to tackle in their life, that is what builds someone's self-esteem.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So while we know that it's kind of an inside job is what I call it, is that self-esteem is what you give to yourself. It isn't that what you get from someone else. But the truth is that parents can have a powerful effect on kids too, more so than their peers or music or TV or celebrities. So what are we finding that is the best thing that parents can do for their kids to really help them build that self-esteem?
I think it's important just is to be present in the moment and be receptive to what's taking place with your child. Oftentimes, we can make that mistake to want to pressure our child to be what we want them to be from our own self-image. And by pressing them so hard, they try to perform for us, and they may not be able to rise to what they feel our expectation is. And it may simply be because we do not validate the milestones of their success enough as they're moving towards that goal. And I think it's important for parents to be with their child and celebrate those successes with them so that strength of self-esteem is built up. I know I'm moving in the right direction. I'm not there yet, but my parents are supporting me, and I know I can do this. Instead of being hammered about you're not meeting the expectations, and then the child feels, I'm never going to meet this, I quit. And then they'll start acting out with other behaviors, really trying to scream their pain to their parents that you're not paying attention to where I'm at.
Exactly. Let's look at it. That's kind of a setup that if they feel like they have to please their parents, they have to do everything that their parents want them to do in order to make them happy and in order then to get the love from them, it's kind of a setup for the rest of their life. That means then they also have to please everybody else in their life first before they get to please themselves.
Right.
So you have a website that's just for kids, correct?
Yeah.
Where they can go on, and if they're looking for help with certain topics, or that they can check into that. And is it talking to other kids too as a blog site, or is it just information for them?
It's an information site, but what it does is it's quite comprehensive, because when you open up the website, it will go to particular youth services that you might want to get information from. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of YouTube videos on there that are specific to the programs that we provide by the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, whether it be the mentoring program, whether it be the YSS program, whether it be teen court, treatment, parent program. Whatever is provided in our continuum of care, you will find on that website, and who are the contacts and how you can access those services.
Okay, so part of it is for kids to go on and check it out, and then part of it sounds like parents or teachers or others can also go on it.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Tell us a little bit about this teen court, because what you're saying is that teen court, that kids come into it who might have gotten in trouble with the law, and then it is other kids sitting on the court system to be able to put out the fine or let them know whether they're guilty or not. Is that correct?
You know, Teen Court's one of those unique programs because it works for all kids. Mm-hmm. Because as much as it is for that minor that has committed that first offense and they're going into the superior court to face a jury of peers and sitting on that witness stand, and they're the star tonight because, you know, all the attention's on them. They're going to be asked. It's also for those teenagers that are sitting as part of the jury of peers, because their role, they don't have to be in trouble. They're volunteering to come into the courtroom of law to be part of the court process. And they're asking questions of their teenagers, and the questions are penetrating. You cannot lie to a teenager. Teenagers cannot lie to each other. They see beyond the smoke, the smoky mirrors that take place. And the question, the dialogue that takes place in that courtroom is so powerful because the truths come out. Oftentimes when we're looking at addiction or we want to change behavior, the first step is realizing that you're doing something wrong. And oftentimes in that courtroom, you can't help but hear that, where parents are learning for the first time, this is how much I'm smoking. This is how much you're giving me to spend on this. This is how long I've done this. These are the other things that I've been doing. Here's how I've been lying to you. Here's how I've been hiding this for so long. And parents are just like a doe in headlights, you know, with their eyes about this big. And whatever shame and denial and fear they may have had, or ignorance to any issue they have, they're saying, you know what? Whatever we need to do, my kid needs help and I want to be part of that. Now we have family engagement where we can really use the services that we can provide and bridge these kids in. Not only does Teen Court bridge all those services to treatment and the intervention, but then we blend them out to really bring them into YSSs, because what's going to take place after Teen Court? We have to have a strong core family, and we have to really help these kids that once we know we're building them up to be successful, to be someplace where there's a safety net, there is a safety valve where they can go to school and hook up with that youth service specialist on campus so they can maintain themselves and stay on track. Because oftentimes if we don't have that, kids will get distracted and go the wrong way again.
So how does the mentor program work into all of this about keeping these kids on track?
The mentor program is such a huge and beautiful program, highly organized, highly efficient. We start with working with adolescents, children, aged 4th grade through middle school, because we know that there's transition that takes place. We know that kids are using marijuana as early as 4th and 5th grade. This is starting to happen here in Santa Barbara. So by bridging these students with adults that are advocates with them, we help build those social activities, but really helps them when that kid moves from elementary school, when he's in that classroom setting, to the period setting where now it's more evolved. and they don't know where they sit with this peer structure because now it's a bunch of elementary schools and one junior high. When you have that mentor that's there that's helping them navigate through that, along with the parents, then this really gives the kids, one, some support that they need to become socially grounded and really evolve as a strong student. And I think this is important.
So if someone would like to be a mentor to this kind of program, they can also get involved through the Daniel Bryant Center?
Absolutely. There's this lovely lady at our admin building in Santa Barbara that runs the mentor program. Her name is Ann Cowell, and the number there is 963-1433. She would love to have more mentors involved, especially we would love to have more male mentors involved. Men, we need to be involved in helping our children in our community. I can't emphasize that enough.
So tell us just a little bit about the importance of having a man in these young people's life. What is it that is really needed and what is key to build their self-esteem?
About 38% of the young people we're dealing with come from single-parent families where mom is the dad. So oftentimes when we have this male figure that comes place, and so that we can interact with other males that are in the program, where there's this strong male figure that's one guiding them, that's really helping them to adjust to go through that rite of passage from a adolescent young man into a man. They really need to know what that means. You know, the little boys and things that you did were cute, but now if you're doing the same thing as an adolescent and becoming a man, it becomes criminal. And so they need to learn how to control those impulse behaviors so that they can be solid and make good decisions and become responsible young men as they gravitate from adolescence to adult.
And that kind of respect is really a two-way street.
Absolutely. I think when you look at game terminology, respect is what I demand from you, but respect is what I do not give to anyone. And I think when children are caught up and lost in that, they need that adult to balance that from a different perspective and really show them the way to become a respectful young man.
So all of these programs are not just for those troubled youth. They are for all youth and ages 12 to 18 who can just learn about how to navigate in the world today with all of the pressure on them and all of the things that they have to deal with. That this sounds like a very safe place for them to embrace themselves, but also have a lot of support in working through a lot of the problems that they could get hooked up on and really get into trouble with.
Most definitely. I think there's a lot of programs in our YSS, Friday Night Live, Club Live, Teen Court, which really provides the opportunities for students that are doing the right things to become involved with these programs so that they become the leaders or they themselves become the peer mentors that really shape what's taking place in our community. I always say, come to jury duty as part of Teen Court, change your world, be powerful. And I think that the teenagers that come in really make that difference when it happens. And I know that it happens with Friday Night Live, Club Live, and the other programs that we provide as part of CADA Kids with the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse.
Love it. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And I hope that you come back one day because I think that the work that you're doing there is great. So thank you very much. We're going to go to my last break and I'll be right back. I'm Kimberly Taylor and you're listening to KZSB AM 1290. When I thought about what the topic would be today and to talk about self-esteem, I think that my working title was really Self-Esteem, Whose Job Is It Anyway? And I think the truth is that it is all of ours. It is all of ours on an individual basis, as well as ours to help others who we see that are in need. So as parents, teachers, friends, we can support someone else's higher side and to help them to feel good about themselves. One of the ways that I think that we can help as parents is that there are some points that you really need to make sure that you're doing. One of those is that parents need to let their child know that they can trust them and that they can feel safe with them, because then a child can take risks and they can learn to become happy and successful. Something else is to allow kids to feel like they belong in a family and that they are accepted for who they are. And then give your child a sense of purpose. Let them know that they matter. And one of the best ways is to get them to feel a sense of ownership and responsibility, and encourage them that it's okay to make errors and that they can continue to work and to build their own self-esteem. So I'd like to thank you for being here. And on my website, I will put the info if you would like to reach the Daniel Bryant Center. And I will see you next week. So don't forget, nobody else has to change in order for you to get better.